All right, go ahead, Jen.
All right, so we'll call the meeting to order at 7:02. Let's see. On our agenda, let me pull it up again. There it is. Okay, so first on our agenda was public comment. I don't know if we have anyone in the audience.
Couple folks, but not seeing any
No.
hands. So
Okay. So tonight we have two appointments, one with the golf course committee and one with Tim Litt about public works. So
yep,
we'll start with golf course.
yep. I see Tony, so I'm going to move him over.
All right.
There he is. What's going on, Tony?
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
All right, so the golf course committee has a CPA project on the table. And as we did with trails, they're looking for support from the Recreation Commission on the project. So Tony's just here to explain the project and hopefully get a vote in support.
Great. So thank you all for your time. I'm the current chairperson of the golf course committee. I wanted to apologize to you. I was on your agenda, I think, last month, and I just frankly completely forgot. So I apologize for missing your previous meeting. I don't know if you want me to go through a few slides that I went through with the select board in October, or if you'd like me to just chat for a few minutes. It's up to you guys.
Why don't you do slides just to be safe, just for everybody watching?
Okay. So if you give me...
I made you co-host, so you should have permission.
Okay, so how do I do this then? Can you see my screen? How do I share my screen? I don't do this often.
So on the bottom, it should have a share screen option in green.
Screen. There we go. Okay. Great.
Perfect.
So can you see this?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So as I mentioned, this is as was shared with the select board in October. I'll go through this very quickly. So as you're aware, the Southborough Golf Club is in the center of town. It's a unique asset, very old, one of the earliest golf courses in the state of Massachusetts, preserves a substantial amount of land in the middle of town. And it's really getting a lot of play. It's pretty striking how much growth has occurred over the last few years, and the number of rounds played each year. So that's good for the local community. And the course, from the point of view of upgrades being done over the last few years, has been completely self-funded. Just who our current committee members are, a very high level of some of the improvements that have occurred now. The driveway and parking lot were paved this year. We've been pursuing a number of projects to simply keep more balls on the course. As more people play, we're trying to keep more golf balls on the course, particularly along Lattice-Squama. So a number of improvements have been made there, with a few more in the plans, to, between repositioning holes and tee boxes and putting up more fencing, just trying to keep more balls on the course. Rounds played you can see here, has gone up pretty significantly over the last several years. I think golf in general, as an outdoor recreational activity, has experienced a lot of growth in general over the last few years, and certainly in Southborough. This has been the case. It's really wonderful that the town decided 5 years or so ago to preserve this golf course when the public safety building was put in place, because a lot of people are playing the course. Since rounds are going up each year, revenue that flows back to the town from the golf course management company has also been going up. The numbers are in for this year, and in fact, we're right on that path of approximately $80,000 coming back to the town from rounds played. So that's great news. That helps fund some projects. In the near term, and some of these projects are going on right now, the 4 near-term projects, we've allocated about $60,000 to do some smaller enhancements on the course. But certainly a much bigger project that is long overdue is replacing the irrigation system. The current irrigation system is over 50 years old. The staff at the golf course gave me a tour of what it takes to operate this old irrigation system. It's astonishingly manual and error prone and leaky. You know, these old pipes and old sprinklers, old sprinklers are just leaking. So it's really time to replace this irrigation system. We have, the courses look great this year. You know, people who drive by the course might say, "Oh, gee, it looks great. Why do we need an irrigation system?" I think, as we all know, it rained a lot this year, and so the course looks good. In a drier year with the current irrigation system, it'll just be hard to keep the course in good playing shape. And so the management company went off and got some estimates of what it would cost to replace the irrigation system. Looks like it'll come in at about $525,000, more than the revenues that flow back to the golf course from the management company can pay for over the very short term, a bigger project. So the select board suggested we pursue CPA funding. That discussion's going on with the CPC committee. Discussions going on with Mark Purple and the select board and the CPC committee about how to fund this. It appears there might be a path for getting this funded through a combination of things. The select board also suggested that we come and talk to you guys specifically just to make sure that you understood what was being pursued here and hopefully get your support for this project. So, at the very highest level, that's what we're pursuing. And I'll pause here and see what questions you might have.
What other funding sources did you consider besides CPC funds? Or
It really comes down to CPC funds or using some of these funds that flow back into the golf course from the operation of the course each year.
Right.
So,
did you investigate borrowing, the town borrowing the money and using the funding from the annual fees to service the debt?
Yes, so that was also considered. I'll defer to Mark Purple and Brian and the CPC, the select board, about how they've been talking about a combination of those funds, and how that might occur. And so there's been a lot of discussion there about how, through a combination of CPC funds or maybe borrowing and then a portion of CPC funds with the golf course revolving fund paying that back over some time period. There's some twists and turns in that whole process, but it appears that there's a combination there that should work, with the golf course then paying back a substantial portion of that money.
Right, that's the model we use for the 9/11 athletic field. So is that part of what we're looking at here today? Or are you asking us to support it on finance version?
So I think what we're looking for here is just your support of replacing the irrigation system while the select board and the town government figure out how to specifically finance it. Are you okay in principle with replacing the irrigation system while the town sorts through the ways of financing that?
Sure. As someone who's been on the committee here for a while, we've not had a lot of success with asking for money without coming up with ways to fund it. So certainly we could probably come up with all kinds of projects that we would like to have. And I played the course probably 8 or 10 times this year, so I'm a user. But it's important that when we have these projects that we I'm not interested in necessarily saying, yep, I agree you should have irrigation system. I'm looking for what's a fiscally sound way to do it. So I'm not sure how much our vote means if we don't have some insight as to how it's going to get funded.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents, and I've spoken, so I can shut up now and let the rest of the group have their comments too.
Any other questions or thoughts? Yeah, go ahead, Joanna.
Hi, this is Johanna. Thank you for your presentation. So just as you were going through your presentation, I'm also a user of the golf course. Probably not as many times, but I have used it. And this year, I will say, as I was going through and using the golf course, I said many times to the people I was golfing with, wow, like the greens look amazing. And they did look phenomenal. And I think you're correct that it was because we did have a lot of rain this year. One of the reasons in the past that I've gone to look and golf at other golf courses is because the greens I felt weren't that well maintained, or there were bare spots, or there were brown spots. So I think that that makes a big difference in the usage of the overall golf course. I have a quick question about, do you know, was usership up from people from other towns this year, just due to the fact that the greens were in better shape? Do you know if we're like bringing people in from other towns? I know that like I've historically used some of the golf courses in surrounding towns, again, just because their greens are maintained and in better shape. And I didn't know if we had like any data about how many people who use our golf courses internally in town or are bringing people in from other towns, especially as the greens are better maintained.
Yes, so I understand your question, and I posed the same question to the management company, you know, the company that operates the course on the behalf of the town, and they don't track that sort of demographic information. They don't know where players are coming from. Are they living in town, or are they from out of town? So that's just not information that we have available to ourselves. But it is clear that the course looked great this year. You know, it looked very good last year too because of all the rain last summer as well. But it in particular looked great this year because it rained a lot at very convenient times. The course looked great, and it does not look that good when it's not raining a lot. And so, you know, thus the irrigation system and, you know, desiring to have an irrigation system that works well in the future.
Okay, so my second question is, and I know nothing about replacing irrigation systems, so I'll just say that up front. But has there been any, is it possible to replace portions of an irrigation system, or does it have to happen all at one time? Like, can it happen in phases, or does it need to, just to kind of split out the cost over many years? For instance, if you can't come up with all of the funding at one time, like, can there be a phased approach to an irrigation system? Or do you need to replace it all at one time just because that's the way an irrigation system needs to be implemented and installed?
Yeah, so here my understanding is, you know, there are some big components, you know, the electrical controls, the pumping system that fundamentally just need to be replaced to start, and then you end up running pipes, you know, new pipes all over the course. So there's a big portion of the funding that, you know, would just have to be done up front. Now, might it be possible to, you know, defer some smaller portions of the course? I don't know the answer to that. I'll take that question and we'll see if we can answer that because other people might ask that question. But I think in general, it would certainly likely increase the cost of the overall project if we tried to chop it up into smaller pieces. And certainly just to, you know, put the core portion of a new system in place, I think would be a majority of the funds required here. But that's a good question. I'll see if I can gather some more information on that.
Thank you.
All right. So I guess I mean, were we asked for a vote, or are we just like, I don't know what exactly I guess the select board is expecting, or just that we discuss this? Do you know? Or
So I guess I don't know specifically. They said it would
Okay.
be good to have the support of this committee. But I certainly understand, I think it was Don's, you know, comments about the financials here. It would be better to understand specifically how the town was proposing to do this in detail. And again, I know Mark Purple and the select board have been working on how exactly to go down this path. And so if you'd like, I can certainly come back to you guys with some more information once that path gets settled on. So I guess my sense from listening to you folks here is that if you, well, I won't put any words in your mouth. If you'd like to understand some more about the financials and how it might work, then as soon as those more details are available, I will let you folks know.
I guess one question, are you, I guess this means you're not working, or you don't think you're working on a warrant article for the next town meeting, or is that to be determined?
So it appears that the select board's intention is for this to go on to the warrant in March.
But yes, it should go on in some respect, either through your request for CPA funding or if you wanted to, or if the town was going to front the money through a financing option, that would also require town approval at the town. Like, again, we're just kind of, part of probably why they sent us to you is, sent you to us, is we've done this multiple times. And so the effort to sort of either engender support for the financing and or pursue CPA funding, you know, we've had to do that for many of our fields, and many of our investments. So that might be why they sent you in our direction.
Yes, so I must admit, I'm not an expert on how these things happen, getting on the warrant, and I've heard Mark and Brian and the select board talk a little bit about, the combination of financial sources and borrowing and how it gets paid back and over what time period. So I know there are active discussions there. It has not yet been finalized, but I think it clearly needs to be finalized so it can get on the warrant, and then it will be more apparent to everyone. And so perhaps what I should do is, when that's kind of final, is come back to you guys to make sure that you understand.
And I do know, as part of the CPA application, written on the application, when it's a recreation related project,
Yeah.
that there needs to be a vote of support
Gotcha.
from the commission, like we did with trails and like we've done with other things in the past. So I'm not sure when the warrant closes off the top of my head, but my guess is they would, if it goes through the CPA route, they would want an official vote from our commission.
So from that perspective, Tim, then we need to know how much is being asked for, right? Like, I don't know that we should be voting on a blank check here, and I don't think that's what is necessarily the right thing to do, especially since there is a funding stream for this particular town asset that could be used to help defray some of the cost of so the practicality or the need makes a lot of sense. Seems like a reasonable investment, all that. That's all, that's all great. But if it's about us sort of approving or supporting, the pursuit of CPA funding, then we would need to know exactly how much. And my request would be is that, have we exhausted and done what's necessary to figure out how much could the course support and appropriately, and then the remainder is what you go for CPA funding. I'm speaking for myself here. Others can agree or disagree, but that's my 2 cents.
No, I think that makes sense too. And also, if it's like CPC, I know we can get them a vote. Like we don't need we do not need a vote before like the articles, because CPC articles are always finalized like later. But I had one question. So the fees that are coming in today through the club, you said are going back to the town. Do you know if they just go into the general fund, or they like spend on golf course, or how that works? Like
So
that
right
yeah.
now, there's a golf course revolving fund that exists, that was created, several years ago. And so, as revenue comes into the golf course management company, and as different thresholds are reached, then a portion of that revenue from, golf, round fees flows back into this golf course revolving fund. And then that revolving fund can be used to pay for, enhancements on the course. And so that has been paid, so as on like this slide, that money has been used to pay for some of these shorter term projects that are less expensive. The fees that have been coming in, it's hard to see how they would cover exactly, $525,000 in the short term. And so, this is how I think the select board and Mark Purple and others got on this path of, well, CPC, and might you be able to borrow some and have the revolving fund pay it back. So I think this has been very helpful, hearing you folks ask these questions. I think clearly the details should be spelled out so that you can better understand exactly what, how the town is thinking about doing this. And so I think the golf course committee should come back to you guys when, those people have kind of settled on what path they want to pursue and how it would be worded on the warrant article.
One follow-up question. The numbers that you gave us before, were those was that the revenue from golfer fees, or was that the return of income from the professional management company?
So this slide here, can you still, I think you can still
Yes.
see my screen.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so you can see the town fee here is the amount of money that has come into that golf course revolving fund.
Okay, so this is, so, okay. If you haven't figured out, I'm the finance guy on the committee. Okay, so basically the group that you have running the golf course collects the fees, pays for the ranger, groundskeeping, and then whatever's left over, they cut a check to the golf course revolving fund fee, revolving fund.
Yeah, the contract calls for, based on revenue that comes in, for a percentage of it to come back to the revolving fund.
Okay, and that's what you're reflecting here. So in
That's right.
2022, 76,000 went to the so theoretically, okay, so yeah, I mean, look, you got a
So
good thing
I'm
going
so
here.
sorry to interrupt. I'm with you, right? So I'm pretty good at numbers too. And
Yep.
so I've also said, oh, well, yeah, this could pay for a loan, right? Of $500,000. But
Yep.
then it comes into questions, I guess, with bonding authorities and how long is the
Yep,
contract.
nope, 100%, 100%.
Yep.
And I don't think necessarily that you should go for 100%. But I do think that I think it would be reasonable to expect the course to handle some of the long-term capital commitments as well as some of the short-term stuff. And whether that threshold is, don't get me wrong, the threshold could be 100,000, Tony, or it could be 150,000. I'm not, but I would,
I'm completely
got
with
it.
you. I
All right.
think, like I've heard various scenarios of, well, maybe half of the 525 gets paid for with CPC funds and the rest is borrowed and the revolving fund pays it back, right? The various combinations.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. So you get where we're coming from.
Yep.
The other thing
Yep.
I'd mentioned to you, because I do think it's actually, it was a good idea to sort of get some demographic information. So maybe it's something to ask the professional management company to see if they can't help you with sort of like, hey, when you sign up online and book your tee time, are you a resident? And that might help you with a little bit more. If you do ask for money in the future, you can say that, 90% of the users of the course are residents. That's always a good selling point when you're asking for something from the town. It might also get you to the point where, and I don't know if you're legally permitted to do it or not, but it gets you to the point of understanding whether you should be differentiating a town rate versus an out of town rate as well. But now we're delving into like stuff no one else wants to hear about. But anyway.
No, these are good questions and we've discussed some of these things as well. So absolutely.
All right.
Anything else? I hate to take up too much of your time here on this, but clearly I will make sure we come back to you with a more concrete description of how the financials might work.
That sounds good. Thanks for your time.
Thank you all. Have a nice night.
Bye.
Thank you, Tony.
All right. So the next up we have Tim Litt was going to talk to us about the Public Works Planning Board.
Sorry, I get all excited with the finance questions.
All good, Don. It's why we have you here, right? Gotta earn your keep. But it did. It sounds a lot like 9/11, right? So
Yeah, no, I think it'd be, I mean, look,
forward.
if you could package it up well, you've got a really good story. I think you could get people to
Yep.
support it.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Litt, you are here. Can you hear us?
Sorry. This should make it a little bit easier for you.
There he is.
Hello.
Okay, so I'm Tim Litt. By the way, the agenda has got my last name spelled slightly wrong.
My
There are
fault.
2 T's. No
Two
problem.
T's.
So I'm not here asking for a vote or anything, but there's some things going on that I thought you should be aware of, primarily because they involve the DPW, and you use the DPW for a whole bunch of services. So I'm going to let's make sure I'm sharing the right screen here. So You should see a slide that starts with what, why, and how.
Yep.
Great. So I got volunteered by the planning board and by the select board to help them with this, and I'm going to give you a little bit on the background and then what we're doing. And I'm prepared to go into as much detail as you like. I suspect you wouldn't like as much detail as I could get. So the background is, as you know, the Public Works Department has a large impact on the budget and services. And there is this entity called the Public Works Planning Board that many stakeholders expect to have an active role. The Public Works Planning Board was created by a so-called special act of the legislature, which is the thing that created the DPW from the former cemetery commissioners, highway commissioners, and water commissioners, and incidentally abolished the office of tree warden and replaced it by the select board. So special acts are the legislature's response to home rule petitions that you may have heard about in the news and other contexts. And if you want to modify one, you need another home rule petition and another act of the legislature to get there. So then you say, just mechanically, home rule petitions have to be authorized by town meeting, negotiated by the select board, and with the legislature. It takes a while. What the legislature does isn't necessarily easy to know. So why are we talking about it now? So the Public Works Planning Board's current mission is, I would say, unclear and to some extent disputed. Initially, when it was set up, the idea was to advise the select board on, quote, planning, managing, and financing of the town. And sort of implicit in that was public works, meaning work to be done by the DPW. It was not intended to be a duplicate of the advisory committee that you might read out of that quote from the statute. And what it really was there for was to represent town meeting in implementing the vote to create the DPW. I think at the time there was some concern that maybe when things actually started to happen, they might deviate from what was presented at town meeting. And so they wanted a structure to make sure that things stayed more or less on track. And the structure of the board has appointments by the moderator and by the planning board, which is kind of how the planning board gets involved. Some of the members believe that the mission is pretty much accomplished because, hey, we have a DPW and it seems to more or less work. So currently what's gone on for the past, I don't know, 3-4 years anyway, maybe longer, is there's been pressure from stakeholders, and that means boards and committees, including the select board, the planning board, advisory, and others, as well as citizens. There's been pressure to have the Public Works Planning Board initiate things, to look at priorities, to look at long-term planning, to look at projects, and to respond to public concerns. But it hasn't done that. It rarely meets, it's passive, and a number of the stakeholders are dissatisfied. And then it turns out that the select board doesn't make a really good tree warden. As you can imagine, it doesn't really have time for the role. The members aren't qualified arborists, which state law requires now. We have a lot of things that want more from the tree warden and not less. And the select board, frankly, doesn't want the job. So with that as background, last July, the select board had its goal-setting meeting. And one of the goals for this fiscal year included abolishing the Public Works Planning Board, which, as I noted, requires a town meeting vote, then the select board, then the legislature. And then because it modifies the special act, it's also now bundled with tree warden reform. I'm involved because I made the mistake of observing, if you get rid of something, you got to replace it. And if you're going to modify the special act, you might as well solve all the problems with it, not just one. So the Public Works Planning Board will be replaced by a town bylaw or standing committee, which, if I did my job right, will meet stakeholder expectations. Both the planning board and the select board are supporting a replacement. And the nice thing about a bylaw committee is that future town meetings can change it, restructure it, evolve it without going back to the legislature and saying, "Mommy, may I?" which is where we are with the special act. So there is a team of 3 people that you may have noticed on the slide. The owner of this is Sam Stivers, as the select board member who's attached to this goal. Deb Muria from the planning board and I make up the troika who are working on this. So I've talked with the planning board, with the select board, the DPW superintendent, and a bunch of other people just to know what's going on. And what this will actually look like is 2 articles, which won't have the article numbers 1 and 2 on the warrant to make all this happen. The first one is a home rule petition. And the way that works is it authorizes the select board to file one within certain parameters. And then Article 2 is a more conventional one that just creates a bylaw committee when the Public Works Planning Board evaporates. So, Article 1 basically does 3 things. It amends the special act to do 3 things, assuming that whole process finds its way through. It reestablishes the tree warden, which used to be an elected office, oddly enough, before the special act, giving the select board some time to do real work, or work that they're anxious to do. It does dissolve the Public Works Planning Board, and you may know that we now have a select board, not a board of selectmen, so we fixed that in the special act as well. It authorizes the select board to prepare and submit a home rule petition to the legislature that makes this happen. And then it leaves the replacement committee to the town. So the replacement committee is the thing that touches you folks. I don't think you have much interaction with the tree warden. So the way the article will work is that when the legislature eventually gets around to dissolving the Public Works Planning Board, and it vanishes in a puff of smoke, the Public Works Advisory Committee comes out of that same puff of smoke. It replaces the Public Works Planning Board. You may not know this, but we actually have a solid waste disposal committee on the books that hasn't done anything. I don't think it's had members for a number of years, but we're cleaning that up. And it also turns out that at one point we had a Green Technologies Committee whose responsibilities were folded into the Public Works Planning Board. So if we get rid of the Public Works Planning Board, Green Technologies responsibilities will move over there, move over to the new advisory committee. And the idea is that the new committee will work with advisory, capital planning, trails, you folks, and others, as necessary. The committee looks like 5 voting members, preferably 3 with some kind of experience. And then ex officio members, the DPW superintendent and the town planner. It's appointed by the select board, no more split appointments. And advises the select board, superintendent of public works. And really what it's there for are a few things. One is to assist with establishing priorities and long-term planning for the significant public works projects. It also may be involved in evaluating or developing options to be considered when things run off the tracks. Or the politically correct version is, significantly deviate from their plans, in scope, expense, or schedule. May also get involved in looking at external funding, whether it's desirable and where you can get it for selected public works projects. And to serve as a focal point for communications to and from the public about what's going on in public works, including notices, hearings, transparency. It can actually conduct hearings. If you think about some of the things that have been rattling around the town recently, you can understand why communications is something that needs improvement in this area. One of the things it doesn't do is it doesn't manage or direct anything. doesn't manage or direct the superintendent of public works or employees or projects. It's intended to be purely an advisory committee. And to look at the big picture, it's not a micromanagement, let's go look into the pencil supplies. How many traffic cones you bought. So that's sort of the quick overview of what's going on. As I said in the introduction, since you're a consumer of DPW services, I thought that this shouldn't be a surprise. I'm not asking for a vote or support or anything at this point. I'm just trying to make sure that you're in the loop and not surprised. So I'll take questions. I can do detail on any part of this if you're that interested.
Yeah, well, so thanks for sharing. This is definitely interesting. I definitely think that I mean, my opinion is that it makes sense. And I see it as similar to kind of how this commission works with recreation department, right? Like we've got a great department, they do great things, but it's also nice to have a sounding board within the community and for us to be able to raise things or bring them to the public and also be able to share also more details about what's going on. So I think it makes sense for it to have this kind of committee also supporting DPW, knowing all the projects that they're doing and all the funding going there as well. Do you know who is select board naming other commissions to this committee, or is this like just open from the general public?
The plan is not to make this one of those super committees that has representatives from other committees.
Okay.
The intent is at this point is that this is the committee is town residents, but that it works as appropriate with committees and commissions such as yours.
Okay.
I think we have too many cases where a committee is formed and then we drag people out of other committees where they have an interest in some of the things that are going on, but not all of the things that are going on. And
yeah,
that
I
doesn't make a really
appreciate that.
efficient.
Yeah, especially where like rec is one of those cases where we have committee seats that we leave open because we don't really feel we need to be on them, yet we have a standing seat that sits open. So I was hoping that this was not oh, and by the way, we need you to fill a seat also. So I like it better that we can collaborate with them or meet with them or discuss things, or like our commission can bring to this committee our plans and our capital planning so that they're more aware of it, but not have to force the connection. I like that better.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. As some of you may know, I've attended lots and lots of meetings of many committees and commissions, although I think you only once prior to this one. So I've watched how things work, and I've tried really hard in this case to not screw up. I mean, not create something that doesn't work really well. Of course, we'll see how it turns out.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, I think the way you're crafting it kind of matches up how this particular commission works. We work closely with Tim. He does the day-to-day. We help with the prioritization and pursuing some of the bigger priorities and projects and whatnot. And so we all have sort of a vested interest in seeing how things go and making sure Tim has what he needs to be able to accomplish his objectives. It doesn't sound like that was the model previously, but I do think transitioning to that model makes more sense because it gives your DPW director a group to help with, crafting priorities and direction, and where it's good to have a group of people to consult with, I think. And actually Tim could attest to it one way or the other. Maybe it's not so much in some cases, but like, I think the direction you're proposing here follows a model that hopefully has been seen as successful in other areas.
So I can tell you that I have spent considerable time with Bill Cundiff, the DPW superintendent. He's very supportive of this and says that similar models, he's experienced similar models in some of his past roles. So, I mean, when I talked with him the first time, he was already making lists of things where he thought it would be helpful and supportive. So, yes.
Any other questions for Tim? All right, Tim. Well, thanks for coming and sharing. I appreciate your time tonight. Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time. If anything, comes up or you say, gee, I wish I'd asked, or I'd like some details. My email address is pretty well known. So drop me a line and I'll do what I can. I'll come back if that becomes necessary. I think, just sort of in closing, I think everything I've talked about with you is likely to happen in almost exactly this form based on the feedback I've gotten so far. Exactly what happens with the tree warden is a little bit more up in the air. But as I say, I don't think that is an area of focus for you folks.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks and
Thank
good
you.
night.
Good night.
Thank you, Tim.
All right. So, Tim, we've got a list of new business. So, program coordinator updates.
Yes. So as you're all aware, via email I sent, Joe, our program coordinator, has resigned his position with the department. He has given his notice that he will be leaving the department effective the 29th of December. He's accepted a position in the town of Concord, lateral move to be a program supervisor for their department. So a bummer, obviously, for many reasons. But it's one of those things where you just got to wish them the best, and I hope it's a good move. Obviously, Concord is an operation of operations over there. They're one of the biggest we have in the state. He'll be one of 3 programmers in that department. That rec department has 27 full-time staff alone just for recreation. So, different world out there. So, but we wish them the best. We are in the midst of recruiting already. I spoke to Vanessa Hale very quickly once Joe gave his notice, and kind of expressed how this is our quote unquote slow time and we want to take advantage. So we posted the next day. The window for the job is open to the 19th. We are already collecting applications and interest as we're a few days in. So we'll keep that open for another week and a half or so. And then our hope is to start interviews come the turn of the year. We will meet myself with Vanessa and we'll go through who has come in, who's applied. And again, we'll look to schedule interviews come the turn of the year, again, trying to take advantage of the slow time in hopes that we can get someone in the seat by the time that we open camp registration and summer registration, just so that we have a full team by that part. But so not the quietest holiday break that we were hoping for in the office, but nevertheless, I think Joe, I had many meetings with him already, but I expressed our thanks to him. Just he's only been here 2 years, but I'm sure it's felt much longer than that to him as it has with me. We've been through a lot, and he's really gotten to the department on stable ground, especially with the programs he's been responsible for. So he's definitely left his mark, and I wish him the best in Concord, as I'm sure we'll stay in touch, and it'll be fun to watch him grow and go through the ranks through the field. So
He was coaching track too, wasn't he?
He was coaching track and field. He was coaching cross country. Yep.
Okay.
So there'll be a little ripple effect.
Big bummer, but yeah. I mean, like, yeah.
Was he also going to be doing anything with the ski program?
Yep.
Yep.
Whole bunch of stuff. So it's been a busy week, and we have a pretty solid transition plan in place that we're working on together. He's off this week. He's had a planned vacation for months and months and months, but we'll get 2 weeks out of him when he gets back, and we got a checklist of 30 things to get through. But we're already looking ahead to skiing and snowboarding. We're already looking ahead to track and field with the spring. So we're gonna try to tick off the bigger things early on, so they don't hit us like a train out of nowhere. So.
Alrighty. Yeah, I know. I feel like the same thing with like work life. Like it stinks, but it happens.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I'm glad they opened the job so fast. That's awesome that they moved super fast for you.
Yeah.
So
And that morning they had a meeting with personnel, and they exclaimed to personnel that they finally filled all the open positions in town. And then I came
of course.
strolling in. So,
You're like, wait, I got one more.
yeah, exactly.
Excellent.
Next on the list, just I guess a recap and an update just on the Gobble Wobble. I know it's technically a Friends program, but we had 974 registrations for the road race this year. So we beat last year, and we're so close to getting that 1,000 mark. Since I've been here, at least it's my fourth Gobble, smoothest one by far. So just a big hats off to the team over with the Friends group, and all the sponsors and everybody who made it possible. It ended up being a beautiful day. You know, our setup day was nothing but rain, nice, cold, and wet, but the sun was out for the race, and it was great. So special thanks to Public Works for all this setup, and obviously the schools for opening on Thanksgiving, and to police and fire and CERT and everybody who made it go. So a definite success, and I know Jolene's already got the color picked out for next year. So she's on it.
That's
She's
awesome.
on it. So next on the list is playground inspections. I just want to make you all aware that they did take place. I know that was something we're getting in the habit of doing yearly, and I know we were successful in finally getting it in the budget as well for the town. So we did have to change companies just because our old outfit went out of business, unfortunately. But we found a group out of New York State that goes the entire, coast of New England, and they were wonderful. So what they're actually doing, part of their package, so they gave us the reports on each playground, full reports, very detailed, and any repairs or recommendations of replacement of items and pieces and whatnot. They're actually quoting those for us on our behalf through all the companies that we used for the playground equipment. So just a nice little perk using this company. So we'll see what comes back with that. We'll see what the number is price wise to do some repairs. Judging by the list, there's nothing that is massive. There's nothing that should cost us, tens of thousands of dollars to replace or rip out or anything like that. Just a lot of, I think, what we've seen over the years, just things showing their age. And a lot of it has been under warranty already. I'm just looking at it. So again, just let you know that happened. We'll see what comes back, and we'll make those corrections and fixes so that the facilities stay safe for the community. And then if anyone's interested, I can send you the reports or share the reports in our folder just so that you can take a peek at them. So invigorating reading for your Wednesday nights or something of that sort on the train on the way home from your offices. So and then the last piece, just with new business, Melissa Danza from Conservation made me aware that we have just kind of going off of Tim's presentation and the brief conversation we have a standing seat on the stewardship committee. I know I emailed you all the details of that. Stewardship takes care of mainly, let me see, bring it up in front of me because I'm drawing a blank right now.
Breakneck Hill.
Breakneck Hill, and everything to do with that. Yeah, oversight of Breakneck Hill and the town forest. But yeah, we've had a standing seat on that. And so she was inquiring if there was interest from this board for everyone to fill that seat. She did give the option, though, if we felt that it wasn't appropriate for us or we didn't feel the necessity of filling that seat, she can bring that back to her group as well. And they can vote to, I guess, relinquish the seat from recreation. So I just didn't know what we wanted to do with that.
Yeah, so I think this the stewardship committee, I think, does a lot of things kind of similar-ish to trails, where they act like they physically also help take care of the property. But then they're responsible for for everything that needs to be done there. And then I think they also do hire out help as well for some of like invasives and things like that, if I'm remembering this correctly. For my existence on recreation, I don't think we've ever filled this seat. So it's been at least like 6-7 years since we filled this seat. So I guess the question is, if somebody's interested, like we have a seat and we can appoint you to it. Or I think the alternative is if nobody is interested and we don't feel that like recreation needs to be on it, I wonder if they would like turn that spot over to trails or something like that, and kind of, since there's a lot of similarities between the properties and what trails does, if there's some sort of synergies there that they could have. But that's my initial thoughts.
I would agree. I think we should, personally, I think we should offer the seat to the trails as our, you know, our representation, if that's the case. Otherwise, if they're not interested, then I don't know, but that would be the first place I would go, Jen. I think I sent Tim a note and I was like, hey, can we offer it to the trails folks? Because it seems to
That's
be.
what I wrote to Tim too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be
Okay.
in agreement with that as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So Tim, do you want to bring that back then and see if they like let them know that we don't feel a need to fill it, but we, whatever, take it to trails. Maybe trails would like to. Yeah.
Mhm. Cool.
Cool.
Easy enough.
All right. Town meeting.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So our ongoing first. So there's two things under town meeting on our agenda, just two potential articles to bring towards town meeting that I was hoping to talk about tonight, and then potentially vote to support bringing them forward. So we've had this ongoing discussion about a potential revolving fund or some sort of turn back when it comes to field permit fees and offsetting the cost of maintenance and so on and so forth. I don't think I need to reiterate everything. But as we talked about, I was able to sit with Brian Valentine. I also sat with Carl Koloff out of accounting, and I sat with Mark. So we all got in the room and we kind of hashed this out together. Carla, for admittedly the first time, really went into detail about how those monies are used and how those receipts are relied upon when it comes to fees coming into the town to plan accordingly with money coming out of the general account, again based on receipts and estimates that are coming in. So what really came out of the meeting was a desire to see not so much us create another revolving account and go through that process for many reasons. One, we already have it, and we know kind of the stigma with rec and revolving accounts and the town's feelings on revolving accounts in general. But it was Mark's idea to put forward an article to establish a facility maintenance or outdoor facility maintenance account similar to what John Parent does with building facilities, where there would be a set amount every year voted in an article to allocate such amount to the Recreation Commission to spend on the maintenance and the upkeep of outdoor facilities. How it would work in most general terms is, we come up with a number and then we have that number set to do whatever we need to do for the year, for resting fields, for maintenance, everything that we've been talking about. We either use up the funds, or if we don't use every penny, that penny then rolls over to the following year, and whatever is voted, if a vote is made for additional funds, just like John does every year as that kind of a standing article, that money would be allocated towards that amount as well, and so on and so forth. So that is what the option was brought to me on the table. And I guess before I put up potential wording, I'm looking for initial feedback on that. Don?
Look at that. I mean, pretty much that sets your budget for field maintenance, and then you have it, and it's there, right? Like, it doesn't, theoretically is not subject to the variations of like fees from any given particular year. one or the other, right? So it sounds like what they're saying is they want to keep the inflow of the fees, but they're fine with establishing a formal budget for the maintenance of the facilities or fields, sorry.
Correct.
And I like that idea because then we have to go back for like the nickel and dime, like, oh, we want, 10 grand on this field, or we want to do that or whatever. Like just being, or like, so would be kind of like what we do for capital? Would we be doing that, but just for like field maintenance of like,
I think
hey,
so.
we're asking
Yeah.
for, $100,000 this year and like X amount goes to mowing, X amount goes, like, is that what we're doing now?
Yeah, but it'd be
This is where we're
non-capital,
setting a
right?
budget?
This would be non-capital. This would
It'd be
just
non-capital, yeah, and it wouldn't be like mowing contract or anything like that. So what we talked about, you think about it, it would be fertilizer, purchase, seed. If we take a field offline, what is it going to take to then put the power of Andrew on it? What does he need so that we take advantage of that year to make sure that's part of it. So part of it is I did talk to Chris Leroy over in Public Works, and I kind of got a number of what he thinks. If we were to focus on a field a year, which is the plan, taking something offline, giving it some love so that we can maintain it. And we're not going back in 5 years and asking for $250,000 because we got to rip one up and, do the whole thing again. What would it take? And he said a safe number would be that $25,000 mark for fertilizer and seed, but also taking into account, playground mulch and things of that nature. So more of a wholesome outdoor recreation facility article, not specific fields, but just addressing, everything from the facility standpoint would rec outside. And that could be low. 25 is what, we figured we'd start with. It gets him what he needs from what we know we have planned for next fiscal year. So, this could be a fluid thing year to year, but, to be safe, we figured 25 was a good place to start.
So this is not like the mowing fees and stuff like that. It's
Correct.
incremental. Okay, all right.
Yeah, mowing would still be held by Public Works. There'd still be a bidded out contract that would be within their budget.
Okay.
And just one of the things, and I guess I'll put it up in front of me actually. One of the things that came about was, tell the story, illustrate, what we're doing with rec to sell this. So, just took some time to kind of recap everything I've done since we've been here. So since 2019 to now, a significant portion of money we've put into outdoor facilities. So, the money that is being requested is to again make sure we're able to maintain what the investment that we've made, and be able to take care of the investment again, like I said, so that in 5 years we're not asking for a significant, much more significant piece of money. So.
I think that makes sense to me. And it follows up on like the promises made when we got the money to initially fix the fields, right? That we need to go back and do this maintenance and stuff like that. So this is covering all of that. Okay.
And I guess the other question is just, this number, are we asking too little? Do we want to start small and go from there and see how it functions? I don't want to make a big splash, but we want, something that we can work with.
I think in order to get it through, I think you'd have to be able to sort of quasi itemize it, right? So
Yeah.
Which shouldn't be difficult, if we're talking like, a quantity of fertilizer, or quantity of seed, and whatever extra work field X requires per square foot or something like that. I think that gives you, that's it, right? You don't need now. If you do that, you should figure out that if you get to like 22.2, then your 25 should be a good number. You know what I mean? Like I think that makes sense, as opposed to, I think as long as you have a little bit of a trail, I think it should work.
Yeah, I agree, because otherwise it could be one of these things that get town floor, like, and they decide they want to change it to $5,000 instead or something like
Yeah.
that, because they don't understand where it's coming from.
Right,
So,
if you go up there and be like, look, here's what we're doing, we're buying seed, fertilizer, and, you know, whatever, right? Oh, all right, well, that works.
cool. That makes sense. Any other questions, Rachel or Johanna?
No,
No, all makes sense to me too. Thank you.
All right, so I can make a motion to support a warrant article for a field maintenance account.
Second,
All right, roll call vote. Hanson, yes.
O'Day, yes.
Dumont, yes.
Shaner, yes.
All right.
And just for context, this wording matches the wording of facilities. This came straight from the town. But we did put the facilities director has to pass everything through capital. So we obviously took the power and obviously because we have an oversight commission to make it our responsibility. So.
Makes sense.
All right, and then the second one is the one that we've been talking about with the dog park. It's reallocating the funds from engineering and planning. In this case, it was labeled as field design and specialty consultant, and repurposing those funds to construction and upgrades to meet the matching funds that we would need to get the dog park project going. So this wording came straight from Brian and his individual that he works with for town meeting, and specifically, you know, this wording came directly from Brian. I'll leave it at that without trying to explain it. So this is the article that we've been talking about, just to reallocate those funds so that we can use them towards the construction of the dog park or any construction upgrades to Lundblad. And that amount that we have sitting there is $46,411 remaining.
So do we just need a motion to accept the wording?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
moving
Alright,
forward or whatnot.
I make a motion to accept the wording for the, what do we call this, a warrant article or
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have to be a warrant article. Yep.
the warrant article to modify the Lundblad Field funding.
I'll second the motion.
All right. Roll call vote. Hanson, yes.
O'Day, yes.
Dumont, yes.
Shaner, yes.
All right, the key question, Tim, is has anyone found the permit for use that
I
went
thought it was at your
missing?
house. I thought it was.
Trust me, I've looked.
So
Not
I
either.
talked to Bill, the consultants we have pair, they're working on it from what he said. They're building the case for us. So he had something, I actually went in his office, he had a couple long file boxes that said Lundblad on them, and he just kind of pointed and he said, hey, I gotta go through those. So still actively working on it. So.
All right. So then we had some old business. So trails project.
I'm gonna skip that if you don't mind. I
Okay.
just didn't have the information that I needed. It just revolved around their funding for their next piece that they came to us with. So that's still in the works. So I don't want to be premature in saying anything.
Okay. Pickleball net.
So just to follow, I guess I'll do both. So pickleball net follow up. There was the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, the question of liability came up and keeping the nets up throughout the winter. So we spoke to town insurance. We actually spoke to the liability insurer as well directly. We explained the situation. We explained what we were looking to do. We explained what the use would be. And permission was granted for us to keep the pickleball nets up throughout the winter in the event of a mild winter. The only request was that signage be put up to play at your own risk. So that is in process of being created, and then those signs will be installed. So I let some of our key players know already last week, and they're very excited about it. I think they appreciated it after a 65-degree Saturday like we had this past weekend. But those will stay up throughout the winter. And part of that signage, we're going to make clear that removal of the snow will not be permitted, just because we don't want them ruining the surface with shovels and rock salt and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
And then I guess the tail end of that too, with just an update on the rec center in South Union. The indoor usage season began since our last meeting, and it's going very, very well. So we are pretty much packed out starting at 9 every morning until about 4 p.m. So office hours, if not beyond that. We've been able to host pickleball with us 3 days a week for open play, for drop and play that individuals are registering for. We have 2 days, 2 mornings of lessons as well on top of it. And then we've been able to get in our toddler music program. We've had our yoga program. We just finished up a home alone safety program. We have a music production class that's going to be moving in as well in those after school slots. So, and pottery as well. So we are utilizing the building to our full force and to the capabilities that it can hold. It will get a little busier just because the next rap session is starting up at the turn of the year. So Pottery Studio will be used a little bit more with our younger artists coming into the building. But everything's going really, really well. I will also mention that I've been working with John Parent, and kudos to him. He's gotten the heat to work in the entire building, because I know that was one of our issues of years past, but all the heat has been corrected. So everybody is nice and comfortable and enjoying their time. So it's been fun to see all the rooms bustling with activity. It's been very loud in our office, but that's okay. But that's why we're there. So all good stuff.
Awesome. Any questions from anyone? All right. So last up, we actually have 4 meeting minutes, which I resent you guys links like around like 5:30 or so tonight. Some old meeting minutes to approve. Some of them being like, one was the joint meeting with like Shopsy and all them, which I will be honest, I kind of cheated on the meeting minutes a little bit. I acknowledged that we had a meeting, but I did not like take detailed meeting minutes. And no one else has either yet, so I can't just reference theirs. So I was going to submit it, and we'll see if it's enough, or if we get feedback that we need better minutes. But regardless, those are in there for 10/18. And then one of them also was the quick morning. We just jumped on to approve the hiring of a person. That's why we have so many of them. So
We do them
So I
a
will
month,
make-
we have to do one at a time.
all together.
All right, I looked at them, they look good to me, so.
All right. So I'll make a motion to approve meeting minutes from 10/3, 10/18, 11/6, and 11/15 this year.
I will second the motion.
Any questions on any of them? All right, roll call vote. Hanson, yes.
O'Day, yes.
Dumont, yes.
Shaner, yes.
All right. Can we look at our calendars really quickly to book our January meeting?
Thanks for sending those around, Jenny. Do minutes get rejected? Has that happened?
I like only if I do them wrong. Not
Okay.
usually.
I mean, I did
I
it
mean, like-
once or twice and I was like it was a lot to take in, but I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
So.
I'm not
so
sure. I mean, that was a
generally-
weird.
Yeah, generally, I mean, if I thought there was something in there, I wouldn't necessarily reject them. I think we'd request a, cleanup.
I think she means like, will the town reject him?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's-
no, I didn't mean us
Yeah.
in general. I meant like you're
Yeah.
saying the town rejected.
Yeah, your English was not good here. We did not like this one. Send it back.
Yeah, right? A lot of
Um,
pressure to take those minutes then.
yeah, some of the huge group meetings are like impossible to do meeting minutes for, and quite frankly, since I was the only one in person and the rest of the people might have been remote, I was kind of hoping we didn't have to call a quorum. But then like I talked and Don talked and then Kristen talked and Tim and I are sitting next to each other and we're like, crap, that just made quorum, right? So then it like tipped the scale, but it's fine. And whatever. If I get any bad feedback, there's a recording of it. We can go back and I can do better meeting minutes if needed. I think it'll be fine. There were no decisions, no votes, no nothing. And actually nothing came of it because select board changed their mind anyways. So
No recent tours of the building, Tim? Besides
yeah.
like you're running open houses?
quite literally. Yeah.
Did you vote on that yet before we start talking about that?
On the meeting minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Yeah. We had DePietri come through with the church
Yeah.
last week. Not sure where that landed. I know St. Matthews was in the week prior with Vanessa Hale walking around. The look on DePietri's face was that of, oh boy, there's a lot of work to be done here. Just because of what they're looking to do, it triggers everything, sprinkler systems, everything like that. So I don't know where it's landed from there. We haven't heard. And that's that. But yeah, that was the last tour we gave. So we didn't make them take their shoes off either. So
Still giving booties.
yeah, that's true.
All right. What do people's calendar look like for Tuesday, January 9th at 7:00?
Okay, I gotta throw the flag. It's my wife's birthday.
Aw, I guess that's allowed. We want you to make it back to our committee, you know?
But I could do the 8th or the 10th.
I could do Monday the 8th.
I'm maybe at Mount Snow that day. So
Okay.
just saying. 16th,
So 16th would be okay.
day after a long weekend.
Yeah, I have a on-site that week, so I know that won't work for me. I don't even know. Well, I don't even know if we're gonna have do we go later? Like 22nd or 23rd?
22nd would be better. The 23rd is my son's birthday.
Let's do
Party
that.
at your
This
house.
perfect world, we may have.
18.
Oh boy,
Wow.
I just saw your hair get grayer when you said
It is scary. Yeah, trust me. Start twitching is what happens, right?
mine just turned 4, and I thought I was gonna die. But anyway,
Yeah, you just wait. It pulls away in the car down the road too fast.
if we go later in the month, in a perfect world, we may have a staff member to vote to approve or to support.
Oh, there
or
you go.
something of that
Yeah,
nature.
and also gives them more time on all these warrant articles. They might come back looking for more sign off. So
Okay. 23rd.
22nd.
22nd, Monday.
Works for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Hey guys, have a wonderful holiday. If I don't
All right.
talk to
Well,
you
first,
individually.
I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn at 8:15.
Second.
All right. Roll call vote. Hanson, yes.
Uday, yeah?
Dumont, yes.
Shaner, yes.
All right. We're good.
Okay, now you can go, Tim.
Hey, have a
Nice.
wonderful holiday.
Happy holidays.
Awesome.
Happy
Happy
holidays.
holidays, guys.
Enjoy. See ya.
Bye.
Night.
See ya.
Bye.
See you in the new year. Bye.